Hello, my friends. How are you? And I hope you can see me well. And I am so happy to be with you here again. And today we are going to talk about the mystery of sleep and how it affects our well being, including our spiritual well being. So I hope you had a good night's sleep. I did. Actually, according to my app, I slept 8 hours and 15 minutes. I had 90 minutes of REM sleep and 90 minutes of deep sleep, and also periods of light sleep. Hello, Ramanand Dixit. Light sleep. Hi, Aurora. So I had, what would be considered ideal deep sleep and REM sleep and light sleep and restorative sleep. There are many apps these days that you can get to look at the quality of sleep. So the reason I think we should all be interested in sleep is that it is underrated as a means to well-being, enhancing well-being, including spiritual well-being. And medically speaking, sleep crops up in unexpected places. There are recent findings that people suffering from bouts of depression, irregular sleep, they have basically higher incidence of inflammation and also of chronic illness, and also, unfortunately, of premature death. Getting a good night's sleep can help prevent the onset of depression as well. So sleep is good, we know, for your physical well-being and also for your mental well-being. But the importance of sleep is becoming more global in recent years because lack of sleep is also associated with obesity, for example, where bad sleep throws off the hormonal balance that tells the body when it's hungry. Even as sleep becomes more critical for all manner of bodily functions, this only highlights the mystery of sleep. Once again, even as sleep becomes more critical for all manner of bodily functions, the mystery of sleep is very deep. Sleep is certainly a physiological necessity, but neuroscience can hardly improve on Shakespeare's observation after the guilty Macbeth cannot sleep or cannot fall asleep. Macbeth says, "Innocent sleep, sleep that soothes away all our worries, sleep that puts each day to rest, sleep that relieves the weary laborer and heals hurt minds, sleep the main course in life's feast and the most nourishing." So even in our advanced scientific age, sleep rules its own domain, remaining essential without telling us why. So babies spend most of their days sleeping. We know that they have secretion of growth hormone when they sleep, and growth hormone, of course, is associated with growth. But we do not understand thoroughly why babies sleep so much. Why do creative solutions come in sleep and soon after waking? A problem difficult at night is often solved in the morning after the committee of sleep has worked on it, said John Steinbeck. Do plants go through rest cycles that are the equivalent of sleep? Science's inability to explain either the mechanisms or the purpose of sleep has been reduced to a geeky punchline. And that geeky punchline is, the only well-established function of sleep is to cure insomnia. Such puzzles have been made even more topical by a recent study in mice, which showed that one of the roles of sleep may be to clear out the accumulated garbage from the brain. If this was the only explanation, however, then why do we need to spend 1/3 of our day unconscious? Could evolution not have developed a system to clear out trash while we are awake? much like urination or defecation. Nor can we assume that being awake and conscious is simply the reverse of being asleep, a switch that's turned on and off in some tiny alertness center in deep sleep in the brain. So-called lucid dreams appear even more real than everyday events. When we wake up, we realize that they are what my physicalist friends call neurological illusions. In which case, by the way, the waking state is also a neurological illusion. What if the same is true of the reality, as I said just now, we accept when we are wide awake? Let's look at some facts, and I know today I'm going to go at length on this because I have a little time before my next appointment, but let's go in some details at length that may give us some insight into the mystery of sleep. So sleep is a state where the organism's consciousness is reduced or absent, and it loses the ability to use all non-essential muscles. In deep sleep, you're essentially paralyzed and cannot move your limbs. That's how my Fitbit or my other apps pick up my deep sleep, because during deep sleep, muscles are paralyzed. So let's go a little deeper into this. Our sleep patterns follow circadian clocks regulated by sensors in the body, partly by our will and partly by our intention, and of course influenced by our environment. Sleep on any given night cycles through different phases or stages, such as deep sleep, which is non-REM. REM stands for rapid eye movement. And then there is deep sleep, which is non-REM, and then there's sleep, which is REM, rapid eye movement. And these are differentiated through EEG or electroencephalographic recordings. The amount of time spent in REM versus non-REM sleep also decreases through life. Premature babies spend almost all their sleep, 75% in some cases, in REM, in dream state, whereas full-term babies typically spend 8 hours nightly in REM, which drops to about 1 to 2 hours nightly in adults. During REM sleep, the brain shows high activity. It's called gamma waves, and high blood flow, sometimes even more than while we are awake. And this gamma activity is associated also with sludging out of amyloid, which is accumulating during the day as a result of our stressful activities, etc. So we also know that non-REM sleep is associated with reduced blood flow as well as slow waves in the brain, which are called delta waves. Dreams occur, as I said, mainly in REM sleep, but may also occur in other sleep phases. One can only wonder why a newborn baby who spends 8 hours in REM sleep, what is the baby dreaming about, since it has so little waking experience? In Eastern wisdom traditions, it says, they say that babies and even fetuses, embryos rather, they actually are dreaming. The REM sleep is very high. So in Eastern wisdom traditions, they might be processing past experiences, even experiences of previous lifetimes. Most animal species studied appear to sleep. So many primates, such as monkeys, sleep as much as we do, about 10 hours. Dolphins and some other marine creatures can sleep with half their brain awake to protect them from predators. Total sleep of both brains may lead to drowning in an aquatic animal. There is still debate on whether or not migrating birds may be able to sleep even while flying, with one eye open, much the way humans can take a cat nap while standing up. For whatever reason, at least in captivity, carnivores such as lions need more sleep than herbivores, or plant-based animals who eat a plant-based diet, such as elephants and cows. We don't know if the same also applies to meat eating versus vegan humans, but it would be a very interesting study to do. All of this illustrates, the reason I'm exploring this with all of you is that all of this illustrates how sleep is programmed into our genes and our behaviors. And I want to continue exploring this with you right now, and especially coming to the part that deals with spiritual well-being. Okay, so far what I've said to you is that sleep is essential for physiological needs of almost all animals. But sleep would seem to be a poor survival trait as far as evolution goes. Because our sleep put our ancestors and other living creatures at risk from predators, the benefits of sleep must outweigh the risks, obviously, right? That's all that scientists can manage to agree on. Unlike humans, some animals, newborn dolphins for example, can survive sleep deprivation for a couple of weeks without apparent harm. Such a mystery. However, in most species, after extended sleep deprivation, their body temperature and metabolism becomes unstable and then they die. In fact, sleep deprivation can lead to death. The longest period a human has survived sleep deprivation is believed to be about 2 weeks. But many physical and mental deficits occur long before the driving ability is significantly impaired after one night's sleep. So this is what we know from science. Since the brain remains active in sleep, some of the proposed rules for sleep make it into a time to restore both mental and biological activity. Restore, repair, conserve energy are some of the things that happen during sleep. There are other studies that show that toxins build up during sleep deprivation and that the human brain clears toxicity in deep sleep. I mentioned amyloid. One more clue, sleep increases the number of repair cells which are called oligodendrocytes in the brain. Even though Freud's dream theories have been discredited, which has also led to total disagreement about the psychological importance of dreams, sleep may be a time for rehearsing what we learned during the day and archiving our memories, storing our memories, much like the librarian who works after the library is closed to reshelf books so that they are easy to find the next day. So, as things stand, we know considerably more about sleep deprivation than about sleep, which we should. Subjects deprived of sleep do poorly on a variety of cognitive tests, and sleep deprivation is clearly linked to more accidents and errors. People underestimate how much is lost by having bad sleep. There is also evidence that no daily rhythm is more important. It used to be thought that sleeping in on the weekends doesn't actually work to overcome sleep deficit during the week, but this has been challenged recently by a finding that a sleep-deprived person can enter REM sleep with even a short nap, not the hours that the researchers once thought were necessary. So even short naps can help. The best guess now is that you can be fully alert for about 5 or 6 hours right after you wake up from less than 8 hours of sleep. So once again, the best guess is that you can be fully alert for only about 5 to 6 hours after you wake up from less than 8 hours of sleep. But after this grace period, as it has been referred to, deficits begin to show up. Finally, sleep is related to mood. Strangely enough, sleep deprivation can make people happy and sometimes manic. Decades ago, doctors took advantage of this fact in trying to treat depression, a misguided strategy, now that we recognize the link between depression and bad sleep. For some reason, people with depression often go into REM sleep and dreams more quickly than normal. But if that is symptomatic, a different link suggests that dreams can lead to creative insights, not to mention the kind of dreams that make us feel happy and elated. Numerous creative breakthroughs have been attributed to dreams, such as the tune for the Beatles song, Yesterday. Yesterday, Paul McCartney. The structure of carbon and benzene, which was originally discovered by Auguste Kekule, and the sewing machine by Elias Howe, were all discoveries in sleep. Indeed, the discovery of acetylcholine, a chemical that regulates many aspects of dream sleep, reportedly came to Otto Louis in dreams on 2 consecutive nights in the year 1921. On the first night, he woke up and scribbled down some notes in his diary that, alas, he couldn't read in the morning. On the second night, he was lucky enough to write them more legibly. Louis' subsequent experiment, based on his dreams, won him a Nobel Prize. Dreams can be induced by taking certain drugs. Ones that boost acetylcholine or serotonin are the most important, or withdrawing other drugs, such as sleeping pills. So we know that dreams have a chemical mechanism. Likewise, we know that many commonly used substances such as alcohol, cough, cold syrup, some blood pressure medicines, antidepressants, energy drinks all suppress REM sleep. Some blood pressure medicines are very much a culprit, and so are antidepressants. REM sleep, although no one has looked at how this affects long-term creativity or memory, is also affected by drugs and by alcohol. So personally, I'd recommend no alcohol if you want to sleep at night. If you're going to drink alcohol, then drink it early enough so that the toxicity is over, or rather, I should say, the intoxication is over by the time you get to sleep. Do we have to restrict dreams to one purpose only, whatever current theories think it may be? In various cultures and seen through different eyes, dreams are prophetic. They are messages from the gods. They are the tickling of the muse. They are random neuronal firings, according to physicalists. And of course, Freud said they are the royal road to the unconscious. So, and we have no way to determine categorically if other species dream the way we do, although they must, given that REM sleep occurs in many mammals. Who hasn't seen a dog growl and writhe in its sleep and surmised that it might be chasing a cat in its dreams? So despite 5 decades of modern neuroscience, we have only a very limited knowledge of the role of sleep and barely know anything about the role of dreams. Common experience tells us to agree with Shakespeare's simple conclusion that sleep knits up the raveled sleep. I'll repeat that. Shakespeare's conclusion that sleep knits up the raveled sleeve of care. Readers of ancient Vedic texts from India may accept that sleep is a time for inward knowing and subtle experiences in consciousness, which is what I subscribe to. Many modern skeptics may declare that no such esoteric knowledge exists and that dreams are junk bins for the toxins that are accumulating as a result of waking state stress. So at this moment, sleep is a topic of big controversy and a lot of disagreement. Now, I said sleep enhances spiritual well-being. And by the way, if you saw me reading a bit here and there, I was reading from an article that you can find written by myself and the Duke University neuroscientist Murali Duraswamy. So Murali Duraswamy is a professor of neurology at Duke University, and he and I have collaborated in some articles on sleep, and you can find these on the internet. And some of what I was saying right now was from my notes that went into the writing of that article. But now let me talk about how sleep enhances spiritual well-being. Okay, so what is spiritual well-being? I think we get so caught up in arguments before we define our terms. I have a very simple definition for spirituality. Spirituality is self-awareness, period. Once again, spirituality is self-awareness. And by self-awareness, I don't mean the body, the physical body, although that is an aspect of self-awareness. I don't mean the mind, although that is an aspect of self-awareness. I don't mean the intellect. I don't mean the ego identity. I actually mean fundamental being as the self, not the self-image. The self-image is your ego identity. The self is that which modifies itself into mind, intellect, ego, experience of the body as sensations and perceptions, and experience of the world as sensations and perceptions. So the self, which you might call the soul, is what we're talking about. Self-awareness. Simplest definition, self-awareness. The self of the individual, which is also the self of the universe. Okay, so now from that perspective, let us examine the three stages of experience that we have every day. Okay, the first is the waking state. It is the least self-aware state. Frequently, you can test this for yourself. Okay, while you're going around doing your job or your work or engaging in relationships or having an argument or reacting to others, ask yourself, are you aware of the self? And the answer is, when primarily engaged in physical activity, which is the waking state, there is very little self-awareness. So it's the least intelligent state of existence. Least intelligence state of existence. Now, as we go from waking state into light sleep, reality, so-called perceptual reality, becomes ambiguous. It becomes paradoxical. It becomes ephemeral. It becomes evanescent. You just have flashes of sensations, images, thoughts, and also random stories without any logic. Dream state. So now you're getting into more ambiguity, more paradox. Okay, this is the dream state, which is called swapna. It's more non-local than the average local experience of the waking state. Okay, in dreams, therefore, there's creativity and prophecy and precognition and possibly memories of previous lifetimes, etc. So I would say the dream state is going more in the direction of the self. And then finally we get into the deep sleep state, where all experience disappears. And this is non-local being, which is the closest to fundamental or ultimate reality of the self. Therefore, deep sleep is very much more intelligent than dream or waking state, because now you're getting to the source of all experience, which is the self. Okay, so these are the three modifications of the self. Waking state, which is called Jagrati, dream state, which is called Swapna, and deep sleep, which is called which is called Sushupti. Okay, and then there's a fourth state. Somebody asked about the gap. Yes, in the fourth state, you go to fundamental awareness, which is the self. It is also called Turiya. Turiya means beyond, transcendental, going beyond. And it is this self, this ultimate ground of being, the ultimate source of thought, sensations, images, feelings, perceptions, that is modifying itself into deep sleep as it wakes up, as it so-called wakes up to experience. The self modifies itself first into deep sleep, and then, which is very creative and very healing, and then modifies itself into dreams, and then ultimately the waking state, which is like the crest of a wave on the vast infinite ocean of consciousness. So this is Turiya. Strictly speaking, Turiya is not a state because it is fundamental, ground of being. Now Turiya can morph into what we call Turiya Tata, and which is finding the same self in others and also having it present in waking, dreaming, and sleeping. Turiya Tata, cosmic consciousness, which can lead to divine consciousness or God consciousness, where the self is seen, recognized, perceived, experienced in the other, God consciousness. And finally, Brahman consciousness or Brahmi consciousness. So Turiya Tata leads to Bhagavad Chetna, leads to Brahmi consciousness, Brahmi Chetna, which is infinite being manifesting as the entire universe. So now I hope you recognize with all I've said that sleep is the window, is the key, is the magic recipe to everything, to enlightenment. Magic recipe for clarity in waking state of whatever you're doing in the present moment. Magic recipe for creative dreams and solutions in both dream state and deep sleep. And magic recipe because through it we can reach Turiya, fundamental self-awareness, and then Turiya can lead to Turiya Tata, Bhagavad Chetna, and Brahmi Chetna, enlightenment and freedom. Sleep is a great mystery. Have a good night's sleep tonight. Thank you. That's our journey from human to meta-human.